Be Frankie.
Yeah, I'm striving for greatness, trying to make it out. We're stuck in the matrix. Yeah, I'm striving for greatness, trying to make it out. We're stuck in the matrix. Yeah, I'm striving for greatness, trying to make it out. We're stuck in the matrix. Yeah, I'm striving for greatness, trying to make it out. We're stuck in the matrix.
Yo, what's good? It's your boy B-Dell. If you're new to this channel, hit the like button, hit the share button, hit the subscribe button, hit that notification bell. But today I'm going to be breaking down the metaphysical process on how to reach the apex of consciousness by activating the mental stargate that's connected to the interstellar gateway to the higher dimensions. But the inception of that ability starts with equilibrium. Equilibrium is basically the personification of God, which is your higher self, by way of balancement. Balancement of what? Balancement of polarity and third density, to where you're able to manipulate time, space, and matter. Because God is the highest extension of the mind, which uses the elements of matter to express itself. So when you're able to express yourself mentally, that's when you use your emotions as a navigation system to control your environment by way of your mental frequency, right? So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, get those notes out. There's a lot of stuff that's taking place on the planet right now that basically correlates with your physiology, that correlates with your neurophysiology. When you're talking about the intrinsic radiation of the sun, that basically coincides with your genetical faculties. Also, it's basically in correlation to your reproductive system as well. We finna get into that. There's a lot of stuff we're gonna be breaking down tonight, right? So the basis of this video is basically the galvanization of the 144,000 by way of mind mental activation, to where it puts you in alignment with the mental stargate, right? So when you activate the mental stargate, that means that you see beyond the polarity of the lunar cycle and the solar cycle, where you operate in a 0-point energy. 0-point energy is where you use your emotions as a navigation system by going through the halls of Amenti, right? Meaning that you have that tetrahedron energy all throughout your molecular structure that has a Tesla angular radiation. That Tesla angular radiation is basically as above, so below, right? As above, so below, to where it basically amalgamates your Merkaba light shift, right? To where you basically transmute your physiology into an orb of consciousness. So when you're talking about that perception of it, that is basically talking about the Seal of Solomon, right? The Seal of Solomon doesn't belong to the Canaanite. So when you're talking about the Seal of Solomon, that is basically the personification of the tetrahedron that's acclimated to the sigil of Tahuti, who was Thoth, who was Quetzalcoatl, who was also known as the spirit of Melchizedek, right? So the Solomon's seal basically means man, Amen, which means hidden creator, which is basically connected to Sumerian mythology. So Solomon, or soul of man, is basically the fire in the middle. That's the soul, which is, when you break down the etymology of the word pyramid, right? It means fire in the middle. That fire in the middle is basically the frequency of the soul that is also connected to the laws of Mayat, right? Where they said you got to wear your heart on, it has to be light as a feather, meaning that you got to be operating from 0-point energy, because if your heart isn't light as a feather, that means that your physiology is connected to the demiurge, right? Because you have an emotional connection to it, right? So the soul of man, Solomon's temple, is basically your physiology, as above, so below, right? That has a tetrahedron energy. So during that process, that's when you basically discover the mystery of the body, the mystery of the soul, and the mystery of the spirit. And that's when it's basically correlated by going from the bottomless pit to hell to earth to heaven. Heaven is based upon the mental faculties when you activate the olfactory nerve that's connected to the 12 cranial nerves of the brain, to where your physiology is basically in alignment with the galactical sun outside of the dome. We're talking about the star Polaris, right? Which is the true light that's connected to the Aquarian age, which is basically the epitome of zigzag zig, right? This is all based on mind manipulation and mind activation, right? So one thing you got to understand is that, most people are basically familiar with the 7 energy cortexes, which is basically your chakra system that is connected to your endocrine system, that is comprised of the hypothalamus gland, the thymus gland, and the thyroid gland, right? And the chakra literally means wheels, as in wheels of light, orbs of light, which is an energy vortex, concentric circles that's connected to the quantum realm. So the chakras are energy vortexes in the subtle body, energy body. Each chakra is cone-shaped energy field that absorbs light, prana, chi, or vril from the universe energy field that's connected to the dodecahedron of the magnetic field of the planet, which is also known as the Schumann resonance, which is basically the heartbeat of planet Earth. So that's why I said your heart has to be in sync with the Schumann resonance as these gamma radiations is coming in. Otherwise, your ass is going to be part of the left behind. So you got other chakra systems, right? Which is also connected to the Bindu, the Lana, and the Manas. The Manas is basically the epitome of the Christ consciousness, which is acclimated to the mind, right? So in order to get to that next level, in order to get to the interstellar gateway, you have to have mind activation to connect with the mental Stargate, because everything's internal, and before you reap the benefits of the external positive concepts of when you're talking about heaven. Hold on for a second. Trouble here. So all this is based on ascension processes as you deviate from the material plane, because the material plane is basically phasing out because it's connected to the lunar cycle. So this is why you see the sun and the moon out at the same time. The lunar cycle is phasing out, right? Because the energy of the sun that is operating on fractions of light by the star Polaris basically gives off a Fibonacci sequence to planet Earth that's connected to the binary code system of the energy extraction matrix. So the Fibonacci circles are basically concentric interstellar vortex portals that works in tandem with your chakra system, right? It works in tandem with your chakra system. So in order to be balanced, you have to have the energy of the centripetal and the centrifugal forces, meaning that you're balanced energetically, feminine and masculine, which is basically also equated to 720 degrees of knowledge, 360 degrees of the physical plane, 360 degrees of the spiritual plane. Combine them together, you got 720 degrees of knowledge. 7 plus 2 equals 9, 9 ether, which is basically the personification of the 144,000 of the sign of the 11, which is the sign of the Lamb. 1 plus 4 equals 9, right? So that 9 ether activation in itself is acclimated to your physiology that works in tandem with the Fibonacci sequence of planet Earth. You got to connect with nature. You got to go back. You got to take your ass back to nature, right? Because this is where, when you connect right back to nature, that's when you're able to see beyond the dualistic polarity, to where you're able to manipulate time, space, and matter by connecting to your orb of consciousness, right? The orb of consciousness is basically light that's made up of wavelengths of particles of light, which is basically trapped photons, right? So when you're able to deviate from that energy by way of detachment, because you got to understand the levels of mastery. You got to go from neophyte, adept to mastery. Mastery is the art of detachment. So when you're able to operate from the art of detachment in the visible light spectrum, you operating on the frequency of the color green, right? So this is where you're going to get your concept of the great separation. gonna have those who are stuck on the root chakra, and you're gonna have those who are basically stuck at the apex of the green Etherian energy, gamma radiation, that correlates with the carbon body, because the carbon body is basically the electromagnetic spectrum of the color black, which is the absence of color. However, it's basically a pigment. Black is the presence of all colors, right? So this is where it basically correlates, where, one thing you got to understand about people, this great separation that's going on the planet is operated by the Freemasonic dualistic paradigm. We're talking about Jackin and Boas, sun and the moon, right? For those who are seeing beyond the construct of polarity, they're not operating in polarity because they're connected to the star Polaris, which is the true light. So that true light is going to put you in alignment to where you're no longer connected to the demiurge of duality. So in order to get to the next level, you got to see beyond good and evil, God and the devil, dark and light. Everything starts with 0 point energy, right? 0 point energy. That is basically your great reset. Your great reset is within your genetical faculties and your mind activation by activating the mental Stargate, right? So in order to galvanize this phenomenon at proliferating numbers, when you're talking about, connecting with your higher self, it all starts with the detachment of the mainstream world, which is the matrix, controls you from your physical senses through junk food, porn, television, shopping, social media, materialism. This is basically a part of the demiurge that's connected to the energy extraction matrix, which is connected to the moon that controls everything on a binary code system on an artificial level. So this is why they want to merge humans with cybernetics, right? So when you understand the art of the mastery of self by going through the Sufi order of the Sons of Green Light, which is the spirit of Melchizedek, that's when you're able to keep your cup full, right? Because the cup of Hermes is the cup of Tahuti. The cup of Tahuti is the cup of Melchizedek. The cup of Melchizedek is the cup of Thoth, right? So they want you to spill your cup of Hermes. They want you to spill your wisdom, right? By way of your emotions. Because as I was telling you before, a motherfucker would tell you that the sky's purple if the color blue hurts their feelings, because your emotions is going to subjugate the logical aspect to where you're able to not tap into the Christ consciousness, right? Because all is mental, right? All is mental when you understand the Hermetic principles, right? So the spilling of the cup of Hermes is actually you spilling your emotions to the demiurge, to where you're connected on this planet under the sleep spell of King Gu, which is the sleep spell of Leviathan, to where you're in a perpetual state of reincarnation, right? So there are many benefits to semen retention, which is basically the epitome of keeping your cup full, right? Your emotions, right? Which is also connected to a form of sexual gratification, sexual degradation, and sexual proclivities that they propagate all throughout their system. Because now, one thing you got to understand about, according to Muhammad Ali's biography, his trainer stated that his biggest secret was sexual control. Many athletes understand the benefits of semen retention. Sex is nature's most useful therapeutic force, right? So spilling the seed depletes the magnetic energy and leads to many adverse health effects, lack of enthusiasm, sex drive, sleep elements, and more. But once controlled, it gives the person quality of animal magnetism by way of controlling your emotions, right? To where you absorb all these energies by detaching from the outside forces and external stimulation. Sexual control is your God power. You must simply unlock it. It keeps the nervous system charged with energy needed to maintain the body. Semen retention sharpens the mind, imagination, and creativity. Your sexual energy is the finest energy of the infinite cosmos. Sexual energy can convert us into angels or demons, right? You're either going to be a goddamn agreeable Anunnaki, or you're going to be a reptilian, or you're going to be a gray to where these entities are able to control themselves through your neurophysiology, right? That's connected to your nervous system, right? Because your sexual energy, when it's at the apex of its intrinsic power, right, you're able to manipulate timelines, right? So this is why, your sexual energy is the most potent thing in the cosmos, but you got to be in alignment mentally, physically, and spiritually, right? Because if you're giving off, your energy to everybody, that's when a lot of things can actually take place. Negative things. Because they know that the energy of the sun is also acclimated to our spiritual abilities, and our spiritual abilities is activated by our sexual nature, right? Because what you got to understand is that the man's phallus is basically the portal of life, but the woman's yoni portal is basically the womb of life. So the centripetal and the centrifugal forces conjoined together, that is basically the apex of unity consciousness, right? So that's why everything I was telling you as far as the energy extraction matrix is all based upon distractions. Because they know that your physical senses is acclimated to your emotional energy. So some people have an emotional connection to food, porn, television, shopping, social media, materialism, right? That is the sleep spell. When you under the sleep spell, you don't reap the benefits of controlling your sexual power. Your sexual power is going to get your ass to the next level, right? So that's why during this time period, in order to get these energies that's coming in, you got to stop watching the porn. You got to stop doing all this stuff to where you're able to tap into the energy of animal magnetism. Because as I was telling you before, carbon is the building block of all civilization, because carbon is highly magnetic. That is a new sun that is in our solar system, right? Because the black sun basically passed off an alley-oop energy to the sun simulator. So these new energies that's coming in is working in tandem with our physiology, right? So carbon, like I said, is the building block of all civilization, and it's also highly intrinsic when you're talking about magnetism. But you got to control yourself. You got to control your sexual power. You got to control your sexual power. Because when you're able to control your sexual power, that's when you understand intuitively that nature is like a computer that speaks in zeros and ones, right? Because one is a personification of photons, which are subatomic particles of trapped light, which is also a representation of the man's phallus. The zero represents dark matter energy, right? Which is connected to the woman's yoni portal, right? So when you have the phallus and the yoni working in tandem, that is basically the apex of non-ether energy, to where you're able to see beyond the artificial construct of the matrix, because you understand that reality is an illusion, right? You understand that reality is an illusion because it basically works in tandem with our torus field, to where energy expands and returns to itself by way of our mental stargate. You got to be mentally disciplined, sexually disciplined, in order to see beyond the polarity systems, right? So that's when you activate the Seal of Solomon, which is basically personification of the laws of Mayat balancement, which is basically the divine union of air and earth, which is also your so-called Star of David, right? Because the man represents the blade, the phallic fire, the sword. The woman represents the chalice, which is the womb and water of the cup, right? So we got to come together. This is where you get the cosmic convergence of the 144,000, right? Everything all around you is an emulation of you. Everything all around you is an emulation of your physiology. So this is why, you got Japan are offering 75,000 for Black men to impregnate their women. Because as I was telling you before, the carbonated man and woman, the indigenous people, your physiology is connected to that sun, to where it gives you the ability to produce in numbers. So when you're basically part of the Adamite program, which is basically the Adamite project, when you're talking about the genetic splicing program that took place on planet Mars and then transmuted on planet Earth, some of these entities, they don't have the ability. Some of these demographics of people, they don't have the ability to reproduce because their physiology is not connected to the energy of the sun. So there, I forgot the TV show. There was a TV show that they basically needed the black man's genetics in order to get to the next level, in order to unlock those portals, not just portals within the artificial construct of the matrix, but open up portals within your physiology. Because as I was telling you before, your chakra system is the scroll of all. Your scroll of all is the tablets of destiny. The 7 tablets of destiny is when you unlock the 7 seals within you to go to higher states of consciousness, to where you're able to basically leave this third density reality. I think, damn, I forgot the movie. I forgot the TV show. The TV show where they needed the black woman in order for her to open up the portal. If you know the name of the TV series, put it in the comments or whatever. But I think the guy that was boxing in the movie Creed, the newest Creed movie, he was the star actor. And he right now he got in trouble. You know what I'm saying? They said that he put his hands on some type of woman, and now he's basically being castigated all throughout multimedia. So watch that TV show. Watch that TV show, because it's basically talking about how your genetics is basically connected to the portal of the sun. Because of your genetics basically gives a certain frequency in order to have genetical self-preservation. Because the more intense the sun gets, the more it's basically going to enhance your ability to produce in numbers. It's strength in numbers, right? And it's going to dematerialize people who are not connected to the demographic of the original people. Your numbers is going to decline, right? Your numbers are going to basically decline because it's not being facilitated by the energy extraction matrix of the sleep spell. There is no more lunar cycles, right? Non-ether, 6 ether. Recessive genetical traits is 6 ether. That's connected to the energy of the moon. Non-ether energy is connected to the carbon body, right? So with that being said, when you're looking at this picture right here, you see non-ether, the black man, and you got the straight hair 6 ether. But in order for the 6 ether to reach the apex of ascension by way of genetical self-preservation, by connecting to black men to basically reproduce, that's when you basically give their bloodline a second chance. All this is all about genetics, right? All this is all about genetics. So that's why I was telling you before, you got to see beyond the dualistic polarity of the matrix. You can't be so fixated on, oh, I want to give me an Asian girl, I wanted to hit me a Japanese. I understand that, you know what I'm saying? You never, you know, some men never lay down with other demographics of women and they want to experience that. That's why I said you got to be very sexually disciplined during this time period. Because when you're sexually disciplined, that's when you're able to reach the apex of Jacob's ladder. Jacob's ladder is basically the ascension process, right? That's what it's all about. So when you understand the Freemasonic rites and the principles in the lodges, right? The demographic that has recessive genetical traits, they don't reap the benefits of ascension because they stop at the 5th sense, which is synonymous to the 33rd vertebrae, right? They can't ascend after 33 degrees. Because as I was telling you before, non-ether is the epitome of 360 degrees of the physical plane, 360 degrees of the spiritual plane. You get 720 degrees of knowledge. 7 plus 2 equals 9, non-ether, right? So in masonry, in masonry and in all these secret societies or whatever, you're really supposed to be reaching the apex of 720 degrees. They only stop at 33 degrees because they have a capped consciousness. When you have a capped consciousness, that works in tandem with your chakra system. Your chakra system is acclimated to the endocrine system. Your hypothalamus gland, your thyroid gland, and your thymus gland. Your thymus gland is connected to the heart chakra, right? If you have recessive genes, your thymus gland is depleted from the ages 7 to 13, meaning that you don't have empathy for other demographics of people who belong to this planet. So that's why the apex of their system is based on patriarchy, theocracy, and imperialism and colonization, right? Which is also connected to a form of eugenics. They got to keep you down in order to extract your vitality and your divinity from you in order to give them second chances in the hereafter, because they don't have the genetics to ascend. So that's why they came up with religion. This is why they came up with secret societies. They don't have the genetical faculties to connect, to basically connect with the creator. So that's why you got to go through up Jacob's ladder. Jacob's ladder is talking about the 33rd vertebrae, right? It's talking about the spinal system, going through the 7 Ks of Offset, right? In order to reach the benefits of the Christ consciousness, right? Father, Son, Holy Ghost. You can't be holy until you become a whole brain thinker. But they don't have the ability to do that. That's how you connect with God. As I was telling you before, God is the highest extension of the mind, which uses elements of matter to express itself. The mental stargate. When you're able to tap into the mental stargate, you don't need none of this shit around you. Literally. So that's why they come up with these things. This is why they need you. They need you to get to the 5th dimension. They need your genetics, right? They need you to get to the 5th dimension. They need you to get to these other worlds. They need your physiology, right? So this is why they propagate stuff like this. Because like I said, the more it gets hot, the more it's going to enhance our genetics. The more it gets hot, the more it's going to dematerialize their genetics. You get what I'm saying? It's all about the race against the sun, right? So you got to see beyond the polarity, right? So if you look in the middle right here, you got the man and the woman working in synergy like a machine in a factory, right? The man is the machine, the woman's the oil. Centrifugal forces conjoining together, which is basically the harmonic convergence that connects you to the cosmos in the space-time continuum to where you're able to manipulate the timeline of the simulation, right? So one thing you understand about what's going on the planet, when you understand that, you know, when the sun is at basically at solar maximum, the sun is at solar maximum, it basically manipulates the whole infrastructure of the economy. So the US dollar will be rejected as the world reserve currency in the next economic crisis by Ron Paul. So all this works in tandem. See, one thing you understand, you got many different holes inside the firmament in increments, right? There's incremental holes inside the firmament, right? That is basically being activated by the star Polaris. So that's why the sun simulator and the moon simulator, they're basically converters of light. They operate on fractions of light. So the star Polaris is projecting 2 different dualistic energies to the simulation inside the firmament that basically controls and manipulates the weather. So it tells you right here that 500,000 people are without power in Dallas, Texas due to severe storms. Report says a potential tornado is developing. Now, one thing you understand, like I said, physical destruction is facilitated by spiritual energy that's transmuted from the cosmos, right? Because remember Hurricane Katrina, that was in 2005. 2024 will be a year to remember because of the energy of what's going on. There's a new sun, right? There's a new energy on the sun that was passed off by the black sun, which is the womb of creation, right? So ever since that so-called solar eclipse, things has been, everything has basically been different when you're talking about the sun, and I'm gonna prove it to you, right? And I'm gonna prove it to you. Now, there's a video of this woman. She's talking about how the sun is pulsating, an older lady, because when the sun is pulsating, that basically manipulates the microscopic photon light particles that basically sucks out the energy of the carbon body. So the subatomic particles works in tandem of the photons that's connected to the energy of the moon. So when the sun is pulsating, it is also pulsating the physiology of the carbon body. It's literally giving the planet an upgrade. It's not only giving planet Earth an upgrade, it's giving your neurological faculties an upgrade. So this is why a lot of people been getting a lot of twitches on the side of their head, twitches on, around their head and their neck and stuff like that. You get muscle twitches because the sun, it has a pulsating energy. When the sun pulsates, it's basically pulsating the physiology of the carbon body to where it's able to reap the benefits of an upgrade. Just like you get a damn upgrade in your phone, the body has to upgrade along with the planet.
Look at the sun right there.
What's it doing?
See that? It look like it's doing it.
That's what people say. That's what people are saying.
Huh?
Yeah.
She's saying, like, you see the old lady's hand, she said the sun is pulsating like that. Boom, boom, boom. It's literally pulsating, right? Because also when you understand theological context and you understand the Freemasonic rights and the socio-political aspect of civics, the sun represents your so-called Jesus. Because I told you the inception of the word Jesus comes from the word Jesus, which means gases, which is non-ether. So Jesus is the epitome of the sun, which is a form of justice in a court of law. In a court of law, the judge is Jesus, which is justice, which is also known as the sun. And in the courtroom, you got 12 jurors who are also known as your 12 disciples. And the pineal gland, the epitome of the sun, justice. And then you got the 12 cranial nerves, that's basically the 12 disciples. Everything is all around you. You just got to pay attention. So the sun is pulsating. It's pulsating that third eye. It's pulsating that pituitary gland, right? And the hypothalamus gland, which is also known as the master gland, in order to connect with that Christ consciousness. So your mental Stargate is connected to the pulsating energy of the sun.
I'm staring at it too long. People say it's flashing too like that.
So you heard that before?
Yeah.
I've never seen that. And it's yellow on the spot around. Look there.
You see here?
Like they're grabbing at something.
Mm-hmm.
I have never seen it. And it's smaller than it was. Because it was bigger when I looked at it the first time.
Yeah, you know, Granny. A lot of people saying it's different. And you would know, because how long you been looking at it?
I've been looking at it 20 minutes.
No, I mean in your lifetime.
No, I've never seen it before like that. I've never seen it like that. And I just need to open the curtains down there. I couldn't get away from it.
Mm-hmm.
I said, I've never seen no sun look like this. Now look at what it's doing.
She said she's never seen a sun that looked like that. If you can't hear what she's saying on the screen,
It's just rising, I guess. And something is over it or something, because it ain't keeping still and moving.
No, Granny.
now one thing you got to understand is about the spiritual significance of the sun pulsating is basically vibrating the third eye. Because one thing you got to understand about the carbon body, the human body is basically an orb of consciousness, right? That's trapped around a physical shell. So one thing you got to understand about the energy extraction matrix, Metatron's cube basically sucks in the microscopic waves, right? It sucks in the microscopic waves to where it basically creates an amalgamation of trapped light, which are basically photons, right? To where your physiology or your orb of consciousness no longer operates in tandem with the energy of the pulsating sun, right? So that's why the body is pulsating, because you're trying to get back to where you used to. You're trying to get back by way of your epigenetics. You're trying to get back everything. Your epigenetics is connected to your Bathari gland, right? And it's also connected to the hippocampus layer of the brain. That's where all your memory comes from, right? When you look at the prefix of the word bara in Batharic land. Bara means a new space and time in cuneiform language. Take you to a different space and time by way of the mental Stargate to go back where you usually came from. The fifth dimension, where you was basically an orb of consciousness. So the trapped light of Metatron's cube is basically trapping your magnetic field. When your magnetic field is trapped, that's what creates physical existence, physical bodies. I forgot to show you one more video. Now, this guy is saying the same thing, but I had to mute the video. So he's basically saying, why is the sun flashing exactly at every 4 seconds, just like the lady in the last video? This is a new sun ever since the damn solar eclipse. I need you to understand that. There's a new energy on the planet, meaning that if there's a new energy on the planet, there's going to be, that's going to activate the seven thunders. The seven thunders is connected to the 4 basic elements in nature: earth, air, water, fire, which is equated to the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. This new energy of ether on the planet is going to activate those 4 basic elements, right? Those 4 basic elements is going to create an intrinsic amount of affliction on the planet. So you're going to see tornadoes, and I'm going to show, we're going to, like I was showing you right here, you're going to see tornadoes. You're going to see hurricanes and tsunamis. You're going to see things like this going on, right? So you got the St. Louis arc. You see all this electricity, right? You see all that gamma radiation, right? Because one thing you got to understand about the St. Louis arc was created by CIA agents because they know that area in St. Louis, especially in East St. Louis, there's a lot of mounds there. There's a lot of mounds there. So there's a portal. They put a portal right there because it's basically a magnetic energy in that geographical landmass in St. Louis. So that's why they put the arc right there, because there's basically been prophesized by the year of 2027, the portal is going to open in St. Louis, Missouri. But yeah, all these anomalies is activated by the energy of the sun. Everything is different now. So there's a guy saying the same thing as the old lady that I showed you in the video. And he's going to show you, he's going to put this mask on that basically blocks out intrinsic light in order to where you can see the visible light spectrum of the energy of the sun. And he says the sun flashes every 4 seconds. Because one thing you understand is that the sun, the gamma radiation in itself, it has the ability to manipulate the photons that are basically electromagnetic waves of light that is basically entrapped and compressed and transmuted into a form of matter, which is carbon. So everything on the planet is getting a form of an upgrade. Everything is getting an upgrade to where you're able to deviate from the physical construct of the material plane. Because all subatomic particles are basically energy fields. Energy fields, which are basically trillions, are basically trapped forms of light that creates physical density. So that's where you get into the concept of capillary fields. So the sun is pulsating. When the sun pulsates, that is basically eradicating the existence of the lunar cycle by way of the capillary fields. So the sun has been different. Everything's been different. So back to what I was saying about the calamities, there's a lot of calamity that's going to be taking place. There's a lot of calamity. And we finna get into that after this video. So there's a young boy, he said that God told him that a flood in 50 days, buildings will be falling down, repent. Now, even though this is from a monotheistic religious standpoint, a perception or whatever, do not negate the message. Take what you can from it and, you know, go on about your business. It's not one of them things where I'm propagating religion.
And he was explaining what was happening.
He was explaining what was happening, but he also gave you a time frame. What did God tell you?
He said 50 days.
He said 50 days from here, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the word that was released to my son, if you all heard, he heard the Lord say 50 days from here. And he saw a flood, and he saw these tall buildings fall down. You also said you saw something else on top of the tall buildings?
Yep, fire.
He saw fire on top of the tall buildings, okay? So what I want to also speak to you all about is
42 more days until the flood might happen.
Okay, my son is saying 42 more days until the flood may happen. When we pulled it up, it showed May 21st as the day of a flood coming. God did not speak to my son about the location of this flood. He just spoke to him about the days that were how many days until that time period. And he also showed him the buildings falling. Like I told you, on that same day, I saw buildings falling. I saw it before he did. And then he came and told me that he saw it. So he also saw the same thing that I saw, but God gave him more. He gave him another part, so to speak, right? So this was just something that we wanted to come to you all and share because, again, doing our part as children of God, doing our part as who God has called us to make sure we release the word of the Lord to you all so that you will know what God is speaking about, so that you will also repent. You will turn from your wicked ways. You will do what God has called you to do, right? This is not just about releasing the word or to even cause there to be fear, right? This is to release a word so that you all will know what God is speaking about in this time, what he's revealing to, people who have the prophetic gifting or those who are prophets of the Lord to speak to you all about what the.
So this is where you're going to start to see a lot of seers, a lot of prophets, right? This is where you're talking about the sign of the Lamb. That's 144,000, right? The sign of the Lamb, the 144,000, the non-ether activation, right? The apex of consciousness on the planet. So a lot of people are going to speak truth, because when you speak truth, that's how you purify yourself. Not only will you purify yourself, it will purify the planet.
Is speaking about, so that you will know what God is saying. And also, again, to let anybody else know who has this gifting that you want to be a good steward over it, and you want to give as the Lord leads you. You want to release the word so that God's people will have a chance to know what is going on and to repent, right? Because we know that's biblical. If you read throughout the Old Testament, you see so many times that God sent a prophet, and he will also make it known that he wants to restore. He also makes it known that, he wants his people to repent. He gives us room, I believe, to repent. Okay, so.
And God was helping me and my brother. My brother's in the bathroom. My Lord helped my mom. Help my mom bring us to Texas, Austin.
Okay,
Notice he said Austin, Texas, right? Because the kids are part of the Great Awakening process. Listen to the children. Because remember, he said Texas. What's going on in Texas right now? Right? More than 500,000 people without power in Dallas, Texas, due to severe storms. As the boy, he was saying, right? Because, the 144,000 are basically the magenta. We are basically the epitomes of the reformer. You're going to see more of this phenomenon going on, because around the time of October, that's when you're going to have the 4 configuration of the 4 gas giant planets. And when you understand about gases, as I was telling you before, right? These 4 gas giants basically give off intrinsic gamma radiation, which is a form of ether. 9 noble gases: carbon, lithium, sulfur, helium, hydrogen, exon, radon, argon, and krypton, right? So the 4 gas giants is comprised of those same energies, and they have a configuration around planet Earth to give off that dodecahedron energy, the fifth element. So around this time of October of 2024, going into the time of the election, which is why they haven't been propagating the election in the mass media, because they know something's going to be taking place. Because I don't even think, like I said, they're not even campaigning for the election. That's because it might not be one. Because around this time on October 2024, the configuration of the four gas giants is going to be amalgamating with planet Earth. That's going to raise up the frequency of the ether, the gamma radiation on the planet. So just imagine what it's going to do to your physiology if the planet is getting that type of upgrade. Because that same energy of those four gas giants is basically in alignment with the Carrington event, the Carrington sunspot, right? So it's, we living in wonderful times right now. We're going through a transmutation process. We're definitely going through a shift. We're going through a big shift on the planet, right? We're going through a big shift. We're going through a big major shift. If you're new to this channel, man, so hit the subscribe button, man, share this video, because like I said, in order to understand everything intuitively, it all starts with the mind. Then everything all around you is going to make sense. So this is also in correlation to the blue star kachina, right? The blue star kachina is the ninth and final sign. 9 is equated to 9 ether, which is the sign of the Lamb. The sign of the Lamb before the day of purification. The day of purification, which manifests the catastrophe, Holocaust around the world with God, Earth's purification. So the great purification was the great sign before the sun sign, right? Which is a Hopi prophecy. That Hopi prophecy of the blue star kachina, spirit will indicate the coming of the beginning of the new world by publishing in the new form of a blue star by the Hopis. Kachina is a supernatural existence of who symbolize and have charge over various features of the natural world. The blue star kachina is real. It continues from the spiritual world. It is also a purifier to dislodge the negative energy from earth and beings, right? So that means that the negative beings who control planet Earth, when you go to the Job chapter 9, verse 24, or you go to Ephesians chapter 6, verse 12, the world be given to the hands of the wicked, and there's wickedness in high places. Those high places is acclimated to the negative energy on planet Earth that is being controlled by negative people. The ones who deceived you, the ones you're talking about, the cursed seed of the Canaanite, right? The cursed seed is basically the cancer to the planet, right? They have leprosy. They're basically cancer to the planet. So that's why the planet has to go through a purification process. So you already had that sign of the blue star kachina, as I'm going to be showing you in this video. So there's a girl that captured the coolest video in a meteor that fell in Portugal. This wasn't a meteor, by the way, because when you understand astronomy, meteors are not blue colored. I'm going to play the video. This is what you're looking at as the blue star kachina. Hold on, the video. Like I said, that was the blue star kachina. Blue star kachina is the sign of the great purification period. It's a wonderful time to be alive right now. And one thing you understand about Andre 3000, he put out this album called the Flute Album. The Flute Album also works in tandem with UFOs and identified objects and things of that nature when you're talking about extraterrestrials, because when you're talking about the children of Zimbabwe, they said when they seen the spaceships, when they seen the UFOs, it had a flute-like noise. The flute-like symbol is a form of gamma radiation. Gamma radiation is highly magnetic, right? Which is equated to the color spectrum of green. So that's why when he was playing the flute, he was passing off a certain energy. You see him in the same garments as the blue star kachina entity right here, right? Because as you going from the green ethereal energy, you must convert over to the blue. After you convert over to the blue energy, you get the ultraviolet light that's connected to the Christ consciousness, right? So there's a process of color spectrums that's acclimated to your physiology and your genetics as well. It all works in tandem with the planning. So also I'm going to show you a video, as I was telling you, about UFOs and unidentified objects and things of that nature. This video, now share this video, subscribe to the channel. Now, what's crazy is, I never really have problems trying to, test out a video to see if I could upload it into my YouTube and basically incorporate that video into my presentation. But this video, I had to wind it down to, 5 or 6 seconds because they wouldn't even let me upload this video onto the YouTube channel. They wouldn't let me upload it. They said it was it basically said it wasn't suitable for the audience. The reason why it's not suitable for the audience is because I even uploaded the video to the channel. It was in silence. So I only basically redacted everything down to 5 seconds. But what it's going to be showing you is a person, they have a front garage camera in front of their house, and it shows you the skyline going from black, blue to green, and then you're going to see a UFO in the background.
Go back some.
Now, you can see right here at the top, right here where my cursor is, you can actually see the UFO. Because as I was telling you before, UFOs operate from gamma radiation, which is a form of fourth octave ether. The ether is extracted from radiation from the ground and also radiation from all technological devices within the infrastructure of the atmosphere that's connected to the ecosystem of that UFO. So it's an extraction process in order for it to cloak itself. So this was a cloaked UFO. And also when you look at the color spectrum in the background, you see the green ethereal energy. That's gamma radiation, ether. Ether absorbs everything in order to hide its form to where it's basically non-corporeal. See? You see that? I'm going to play it again.
Go back some.
Crazy. So like I said, it's a wonderful time to be alive right now because the Great Purification is, we're at the foundation of it. We're at the foundation of the Great Purification period. And the Great Purification period must take place because that's all part of the Hopi prophecy that's connected to the indigenous Mers, who are basically comprised of your Atlanteans and your Lemurians, the so-called blacks, right? Now, one thing you got to understand about the Great Purification period, there's going to be a diametrical timeline. There's going to be a timeline split. That timeline split is the Great Separation. So it tells you right here, the World Economic Forum, where Noah Haran said verbatim, humans are now hackable animals. The whole idea that humans have this soul or spirit and nobody knows what's happening inside of them and they have free will, that's over. He's basically saying all that stuff is over because one thing you got to understand about cybernetics in a transhumanistic infrastructure, you basically have a patent on your body. That means that the energy extraction matrix owns you and it controls you. Because I was telling you before, they want to control you by way of the mind. The mind is God. God is the highest extension of the mind, which uses elements and matter to express itself. You can't express yourself mentally if your emotions is connected to the demiurge, right? So they, like I said, they want to control your mind because they know that's the apex. They know that the apex of consciousness is the spirit of Melchizedek, which is your God self. Now, All this is in correlation to my homeboy Phase One. He got a song, a brand new song that's out. Hold on, let me find the it's called The Grind at the Mill, right? And the foundation of this song is basically talking about the galvanization of the chosen ones, or the 144,000, which is also known as the Lamb, right? So you gotta watch, look out for that video. But the song is called Grind at the Mill. So one thing you understand when you're talking about Phase One song, Grind at the Mill, it's also in correlation to Revelation 14, talking about the Lamb and the 144,000, right? The ones that will be standing on Mount Zion with the Father's name written on our forehead. When you're talking about that, you're basically talking about the seal of Solomon, which is the tetrahedron. The same thing, the same sigil that Tahuti or Thoth had in his hand. The seal of Solomon that sits on your forehead. That is basically the epitome of the spirit of Melchizedek, or the Christ consciousness that's activated by the olfactory nerve, right? So this is the basically the basis of the song, right? There's some of the lyrics to the song right here. He is talking about the grind at the mill to they will me away, right? Because there has to be a great separation within the infrastructure of the system. Because the wheel, your energy vortexes, your chakra system, when you're in alignment, you're going to deviate from everybody who is not in alignment with your energetic frequency, right? Because when you got to understand about the great separation, when you go to Lamentations and Judges in the Bible, right, it talks about the two women shall be grinding at the mill, just like Phase One said. The grind at the mill was basically another allegory talking about the great separation that's going to be taking place on the planet, right? There's going to be a great separation. Also within the lyrics of the song, and he's talking about hitting that double helix, that double helix. That double helix is basically the revitalization process of your genetical faculties to where you're able to connect to the mental Stargate in the space-time continuum by having your physiology in alignment with the energy of the sun, which is also known as the sign of the Lamb, which is the 144,000 of the cosmic convergence. So that's when he's talking about right here, the most death. Y'all smell when I'm kicking. Y'all seen Bay. Y'all seen Bay, B-E-Y. Bay is a governing title that connects you right back to the land by way of natural order, natural law during the great purification. So when you have a great purification on the planet, what happens is everything goes back into its revitalized state. Everything goes back into its natural order. So you got to check that song out by my bro Phase One, because it's basically talking about everything that's correlated to what's going on right now. A grind at the mill. That's what the song is called. Hit him up for the song Grind at the Mill until they will me away. Stream this song like 1,000,000 times. Put it on loop. So shout out to my homeboy Phase One, man. That's the one of my brothers. We talked on the phone earlier today, and we're gonna be doing another broadcast for you guys as soon as he get his voice back on point. Now, all this is also connected to, like I said, just like Phase, Phase, the young elder, many other people, Rod Hayes, we was propagating the energy of green. Because one thing you got to understand about the color spectrum of green, green is the most divine mood, which is basically a reflection from the heavens of the mental plane, right? It's in connection with the mental plane. It's all based upon the ascension process to where you're able to connect with the source of life, which is basically divine love. And all this is in Dr. York's publication. This is talking about the latent powers. And when you're talking about the atomic structure and the molecule in the cell of the electromagnetic force field that's connected to your energetic morphic field, which is basically the dualistic energies of positive and negative, centrifugal, centripetal, which is basically the light force energy from all basics of the solar system and the universe, basically. So when you understand that phenomenon in itself, that's when you're able to reap the benefits of alignment. So you got to get this publication by Dr. York, celestial or terrestrial. Which one are you? So I'm gonna end this presentation with a video by one of my elders. Be about one of my elders, Nubin Makares. He's out of New York. He's an elder of mine. I talked to him the other day, and I'm going to be bringing him on the channel. You know what I'm saying? It's always good to connect with the elders in order to get, a different perspective. You know what I'm saying? I say a more intrinsic and polished perspective, because they've been doing this stuff for the longest. Nubin Makares, he's been doing this for like 20, 30 years now. So I'm going to play this video, and he's basically going to be telling you about everything that I was saying in the video as far as like the pulsating energy of the sun. That is basically the precursor to your so-called great solar flash that's going to be taking place on the planet, because everything as far as the material plane has to crumble down. The house of cards must crumble, right? I'm going to play this video.
Inflation is actually talking about the downfall of America, the downfall of the European common market, which is still heavily under the lunar kingdom that was set forward by the Greeks and the Romans. When you're dealing with the book of Revelation, that is not a book of Jesus. It's not talking about a Jesus Christ coming back, because there is no Jesus Christ. Well, who they're talking about, when they're talking about the Jesus Christ in there, they're talking about the representation of the lunar doctrines of Christianity, Islam, and Judaism, which is going to come down. And they're talking about the Son of Man, which is, again, is not Jesus. It's talking about the true Son of Man, the Amen Ray, who will raise up. They know that everything in that book of Revelation is going to happen. Your heads of your government, your high up Zionists, and who are in the Illuminati, they know that the earth is going to go through this change, and it's going to become extremely hot here to produce new elements. This is all picking up on the fire coming from the sky in the book of Revelation. So what are they doing? They're getting out of here. I told you they're going to Mars. Mars is further away from the sun. This is why they're leaving, because they know the Holocaust is coming. The solar Holocaust is coming to the planet. But it's only coming, and it's going to raise the planet into a new state of being, a new state of existence. But many will die, and a stronger new seed, a new bloodline will come forward. This is the birth of the 144,000 that are spoken of. Many people are going to lose their minds at the people that are going to start dying, the people closest to you. So as this is going, and all these governments are starting to collapse, all the industries are starting to fall down. You notice there's no more record industry. The movie industry is on its way out. You're going to see all of the oil industry is going to fall. All these things are going to fall down, because it's a sign these corporations, these businesses, these enterprises, these governments have come to an end. That's why I told you, if you notice, the white man, he's telling you subtly that this is all coming to an end. This is why he's making movies like Mad Max, The Book of Eli. Notice this is all representing the end of the world and the fall of all the governments. And once he leaves, the solar orders must come back. They must return. They must pick up where the ancient Kemites and the Nubians and even the Olmecs here in America left off at, because this was all supposed to be solar government, not governments based on the lunar. What is the lunar government? The lunar government represents the churches. They represent the mosque. They represent the synagogues of Satan, as they say, the sacred 10, the Illuminati. The so-called Jesus that the white man has been promoting, the Muslims have been promoting, and that the Israelites and the Jews have been promoting. So actually, someone who comes against that image of Jesus Christ, comes against that image of the church, comes against that, or what you would call an antichrist, that would be the savior to black people. The so-called antichrist, which would come out of Egypt, right? Which would be the God or the Son of Man that the ancient Egyptians worshiped, the Son, God, Amen, and those who were the receiver of Amen's light, the Amen Ray, those would be the savior to the black race. Not Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ is the one they enslaved you on.
Exactly. So that's why you must deviate from religion, because religion in itself is connected to the dualistic energies of the simulation, just like my elder said, right? Because one thing you got to understand about Black people, they hate everything about slavery except Christianity. In fact, you wouldn't even be a Christian if it wasn't for so-called slavery, right? They negate those points. They don't want to look at reality because, like I said, they stuck in dualistic energies. They stuck in truth and lies. I'm stuck in reality. I'm operating at 0-point energy. So one thing you got to understand about the polarity, somebody's truth can be the lie and somebody's lie can be the truth. Operate 0-point energy by detaching yourself from the religions, by detaching yourself from everything all around you that was created under the lunar doctrine, a form of patriarchy, right? That subjugated the energy of nature, right? So for those coming in, I'm going to do a quick rundown in order for everybody to understand the synopsis at hand. So I was telling people the inception on how to activate the mental Stargate. You got to tap into the energy of equilibrium. Equilibrium is basically the foundation of God, which is your higher self. Your higher self is also known as a Zohar body, to where you connect with the space-time continuum. Because when you operate from a place of balancement, that's when you're able to control your environment. You're able to control your sexual energy. You're able to control your diet. You're able to control your emotions because you're not under the infrastructure of the energy of the moon, because the moon is what subjugates your spiritual energy. Your spiritual energy is connected to your sexual energy. Your sexual energy is how you ascend into the higher dimensions, because your sexual energy is cosmic fuel to get to the next level. How you going to get to the next level if you keep having all these orgasms, laying with everybody, right? How you going to get to the next level if you keep dumbing yourself down and you keep hanging with everybody, keep hanging out with low vibrational people? Chosen people don't hang with low vibrational people, right? So you got to see beyond the dualistic energies of the energy extraction matrix. So this is why you got to see the beyond the color spectrums of white and black, Jack and Boaz, right? Solar, lunar, by going through the halls of Amenti, right? So all this is based upon the fact that your physiology works in tandem with, the non-ether energy that's coming to the planet. This is why they seen those 9 pillars of light that appeared in the night sky of Japan, right? These are all signs, because the signs are basically significations for you to upgrade yourself genetically, right? That's what this is all about. You got to activate the mental Stargate. You activate the mental Stargate, that's when you tap into the interstellar gateway to the higher dimensions, the halls of Amenti. But you can't tap into that energy if you don't have no type of discipline. A lot of people don't have discipline because the mainstream media, the matrix, controls you by way of your physical senses through junk food, porn, television, shopping, social media, materialism. Those are all lunar doctrines, right? Religion, all this stuff. Because when you spill your emotions, your cup of Hermes, right? The black magicians, the black hats who control the energy extraction matrix by doing the work of the archons, they are the ones who propagate these ideologies to you to where your cup is no longer full, right? So that's what, that's what this is all about. It's all talking about mind activation, to control yourself. You have to control your environment. If you don't have no control over your environment, you know what I'm saying, you ain't got control over shit else in your life. If you can't control your sex and energy, you can't control shit else in your life, right? We in the signs of the times right now, right? We in the signs of the times right now. Because one thing you got to understand about, in order to escape the energy extraction matrix on the mental level, you must unlock the conscious energy grid within your neurological faculties, right? The conscious energy grid, that's what makes you chosen. That's what makes you different than everybody else, because you operating from an apex of energy of consciousness that everybody else ain't on, basically. Because one thing you got to understand about chosen ones are basically highly spiritual people who have a highly spiritual intelligence. So the more intelligent you are, the less friends you have. Because you move different because you know the truth. So the more you tap into your gifts, the more you tap into your energy, the more you connect with the planet, the more you connect with nature, the more your family and friends is going to decrease. Everybody ain't chosen. Matthews 22:14, many are called, only few are chosen. We're in a time right now where there's a diametrical difference between the real chosen and the fake chosen. The fake chosen are being exposed by the true light, the star Polaris outside of the dome. Because the black sun of the solar eclipse, the so-called solar eclipse, passed off a new energy to the sun that's operating on fractions of light from the star Polaris, to where it basically exposes everything all around you. Everything is getting exposed. You know, relationships, family members, celebrities, politicians, everything that's fake, everything that's basically superficial to the energy extraction matrix is getting exposed. This is a time of exposure because this is the great purification. That's why you seen this blue star kachina in the video that I showed you. That's the great purifier. The great purifier activates the seven thunders. And it also activates the scroll of all within you, which is your chakra system. Because when you're basically imbalanced, that activates nature. So you must control your sexual energy. Your sexual energy is when it's in alignment with the apex of your spirituality. So this is just, this is, due to my own independent research. Initially, I think that the indigenous people, the first ones, I think they all had 3 X chromosomes, right? Because it's not a coincidence you got X-Men. X-Men is talking about the activation of the X gene, right? To where you tap into certain abilities. So when you have that X gene activation, this is where you're able to do many different things on the planet. Procreate, without, other demographics of people around you or whatever. So, like I said, this is why they propagate sexual degradation, sexual gratification to us, XXXX, because they know that is, the X gene activation of your sexual energy is how you tap into your true spiritual abilities. Control yourself. You know what I'm saying? You got, I tell people this all the time. If you can't control your dick, you can't control shit else in your life. You can't control your eating habits. You can't control shit else in your life. Right? Because you fell victim to the flesh. The flesh is connected to a form of patriarchy. That's the lunar doctrine. You under the sleep spell of King Gu, right? The sleep spell of Leviathan. Because as I was telling you before, this is the fall of the dragon. This is why everything is getting exposed. Everything is getting exposed, right? So that's why you must detach from the lunar doctrines and tap into the solar doctrines. Get back to nature. Get your ass back into nature. That's what everything is all about right now, right? This is the sign of the Lamb. This is the sign of the 144,000 in the cosmic convergence. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, get this video out there. Thanks for watching this video. Hit the subscribe button if you're new to this channel. End of transmission.
10:14. We will put an end to this madness.
It's me again, God. I know it's been a long time since I last called you back on your line. So I hope and I pray for your hand to help me on the ladder to the land. Karma's gonna get to you and then you'll have a chariot with only one less friend. Now I had distant folks that are looking to my eyes to understand the wisdom he's given and his wealth from the skies. So thanks for this meal that I'm about to receive, and thank you for my health and all the good memories. Thanks for the courage taking on another day when I used to not believe, but now I know about grace. Stay away from the fire cause the flames does burn. Go with your gut feeling, when it's wrong you learn. For every one step I take, the Lord takes 2. And do unto others if you want it done unto you. It's me again, God. I know it's been a long time since I last called you back on your line. So I hope and I pray for your hand to help me on the ladder to the land. It's me again, God. I know it's been a long time since I last called you back on your line. So I hope and I pray for your hand to help me on the ladder to the this a completion, the selfish proto-Grecian, Amerindian, Phoenician. I'm the last of the Mohicans, the bastard of the land, the pen, melanin, accretion. And we just trying to get back to the fact that we was kings and queens of a land before the avalanche seized it. I live on Turtle Island with the rest of the diseased. Better than the medicine for 7 different treatments. Niggas try to ride away but end up getting seasick. The sleep can feel my words like Braille and they're awakened with the penmanship of Hindu script written in them vacant monastery honor. Payments to the prototype. Tomorrow's only a day away, but nothing happens overnight. The fuck's wrong with going left when you know it's right? Biting off more than I can chew, that's an overbite. Black on black crime is like watching 2 soldiers fight when all along they was on the same page. History. It's me again, God. I know it's been a long time since I last called you back on your line. So I hope and I pray for your hand to help me on the ladder to the land. It's me again, God, I know it's been a long time since I last called you back on your line. So I hope and I pray for your hand to help me on the ladder to the land.